Matrosskaya Tishina, the poisoned before trial rumor. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you can handle the truth hiding behind locked doors. Because once this story starts, there's no turning back. The tray hit the concrete floor of cell 214 with a sound too loud for the silence of Matrosskaya Tishina. Metal clattered, soup sloshed, bread rolled to the corner like it was trying to escape. The man who dropped it, Sergei Antonov, former regional councilman turned high-profile detainee, was already sinking to his knees, palms pressed to his temples, eyes struggling to focus. Less than 12 hours remained before his court appearance. Less than 12 minutes after breakfast, he couldn't remember his own lawyer's name. Matrosskaya Tishina prison sat like a scar in northern Moscow. Grey walls, narrow windows, and a reputation that followed inmates long after release, if they were released at all. This wasn't a place known for mercy. It was known for silence. And for rumors that never fully died. Guards rushed in, boots echoing down the corridor, radios crackling. Antonov was conscious, but barely. His speech came out thick, words sliding into each other, pupils dilated despite the harsh fluorescent lights. The official report would later describe it as acute stress response. But the inmates watching through steel bars whispered something else. Poison. Antonov wasn't the first. He was the fourth political detainee in 2 years to fall ill within hours of a major court appearance. Different charges. Different wings of the prison. Same symptoms. Sudden dizziness. Cognitive fog. Motor weakness. And always after a meal. Investigative journalist Elena Markovich arrived outside the prison gates before the ambulance lights had fully faded. She had been tracking the pattern quietly, collecting testimony no one wanted on record. Former aides. Defense attorneys. Medical staff who spoke in half sentences and looked over their shoulders even in cafes. They all said the same thing. Something was happening inside Matrosskaya Tishina, and it wasn't random. Officially, prison administrators denied everything. Food safety inspections were routine. Kitchen staff were vetted. No toxins were found in blood tests, at least none the state laboratories acknowledged. The cases were dismissed as anxiety, poor health, or pre-existing conditions. Convenient explanations, neatly typed and quickly filed away. But Elena had something they didn't expect. A timeline. Antonov's breakfast tray had been prepared at 6:12 a.m. Camera coverage of the kitchen area cut out at 6:14:4, scheduled maintenance. It came back online at 6:27. 13 minutes unaccounted for. 13 minutes where no footage existed, no digital logs were recorded, and no supervisors were officially present. When Elena cross-referenced the other incidents, the pattern tightened like a noose. Every case included a camera malfunction. Every case involved a defendant whose testimony threatened powerful interests, corruption trials, misuse of public funds, names that reached far beyond a single courtroom. And every time, the illness struck just hard enough to delay proceedings or discredit the accused without leaving visible scars. Antonov was discharged from the prison infirmary that night, his court appearance postponed indefinitely. No charges were dropped. No investigation was opened. Life inside Matrosskaya Tishina returned to its usual rhythm of counts, clanging doors, and controlled quiet. But Elena wasn't done. 3 days later, an anonymous envelope appeared on her desk. No return address. Inside was a folded kitchen inventory sheet and a handwritten note with 6 words underlined twice. Supplement batch changed before court days. Attached to the paper was a faded photograph, taken inside the prison kitchen, showing a food tray identical to Antonov's. On the corner of the image, barely visible, was a small vial taped beneath the tray's rim. And written on the vial, in black marker, was a single letter, K. By the time Elena Markovich realized she was being followed, it was already too late to turn back. The man stayed 3 steps behind her from the metro station to the narrow street where her office building leaned like it had given up decades ago. He never sped up. Never slowed down. Just close enough to be intentional. When she stopped, pretending to adjust a bag, he stopped too, his reflection catching briefly in a darkened storefront window. Plain coat. No insignia. The kind of anonymity that felt practiced. Inside her office, Elena locked the door and spread the contents of the envelope across her desk again. The inventory sheet wasn't fake. She'd already confirmed that. It matched internal prison documentation down to the formatting errors. And the supplement listed, nutritional additive, K17, wasn't supposed to be anywhere near inmate meals. It was classified as a medical-grade compound, used sparingly under supervision to stabilize patients after trauma. In small doses, it calmed the nervous system. In slightly larger ones, it blurred cognition, slowed reaction time, and made coherent speech difficult. It didn't kill. It didn't leave traces after a few hours. And most importantly, it looked like stress. Elena contacted Victor Levin, a former prison logistics officer who'd resigned abruptly the previous year. He agreed to meet only after dark, choosing a crowded train platform where voices dissolved into noise. Victor didn't smile when she mentioned Matrosskaya Tishina. His jaw tightened. "You don't poison prisoners," he said quietly. "You manage them." He explained how food distribution worked inside the prison, how certain trays were flagged, how routes changed on court days, how medical supplements could be logged as dietary adjustments without raising alarms. The kitchen wasn't the weak point. Oversight was. When Elena asked about K17, Victor hesitated. Then he nodded once. It was never meant for kitchens. But if someone ordered it, no one would question it. That night, Elena received another message. This one wasn't anonymous. It came from Antonov's lawyer. The subject line read, "We have a problem." Antonov had tried to speak earlier that day. Tried to tell his attorney something before guards intervened. His words came out fractured, but one sentence stood out. "They said it was for my nerves." The lawyer believed Antonov was deteriorating, not improving. His confusion lingered longer than expected. Medical staff dismissed it as lingering anxiety, but Elena knew better. If K17 had been administered repeatedly, or combined with something else, the effects could compound. She went public the next morning. Not with accusations. With questions. An article went live detailing the pattern, the timing, the unexplained camera failures, the shared symptoms. No names. No conclusions. Just facts lined up like fingerprints waiting for a match. Within hours, it was circulating beyond Russia, picked up by international outlets, human rights observers, legal watchdogs. And then the disappearances began. First, Victor Levin stopped answering calls. His apartment was found unlocked, phone on the table, wallet untouched. No signs of struggle. No note. Next, a junior prison medic Elena had emailed her a single sentence before deleting their account entirely. Check the storage room behind the old laundry wing. Elena didn't hesitate. The laundry wing of Matrosskaya Tishina had been closed for renovations years earlier. When she obtained satellite images through a contact abroad, she noticed something odd: heat signatures at night. Movement where there shouldn't be any. She passed the information to an independent oversight committee. Within 48 hours, inspectors were scheduled to enter the facility. They never made it inside. The inspection was postponed due to a security incident. Official details were scarce, but one thing leaked through a guard who owed Elena a favor. A locked storage room had been discovered behind the old laundry wing. And inside it, hidden behind stacked crates of expired supplies, were dozens of vials identical to the one in Elena's photograph, each marked with the same black letter, K. But the most disturbing detail wasn't the drugs. It was the delivery log. Because the last entry wasn't from the past. It was dated tomorrow morning. The morning of the scheduled delivery arrived under a low, colorless sky, the kind that pressed down on the city like a warning. Elena Markovich hadn't slept. She'd spent the night moving files to encrypted backups, forwarding copies of documents to editors outside the country, and drafting an article she wasn't sure she'd live to publish. The Oversight Committee's postponement was no accident. Someone had bought time. And in that time, the system was trying to erase its tracks. At 6:03 a.m., a refrigerated transport truck rolled through the outer gates of Matrosskaya Tishina. According to the log, it carried routine nutritional supplies, vitamins, protein additives, electrolyte mixes. Nothing unusual. Except Elena knew better now. She had the delivery manifest from an internal source who stopped responding immediately after sending it. K-17 wasn't listed. That omission was the point. Inside the prison, Sergei Antonov was awake and waiting. His court appearance had been rescheduled for that afternoon after international pressure made another delay impossible. Guards noted he seemed more compliant. Exactly as expected. But something had changed. Antonov had spent the night replaying fragments of memory that didn't belong together. Voices he didn't recognize, a hand lingering too long near his tray, a guard whispering, "This will help." When breakfast arrived, he didn't touch it. He slid the tray under his bunk and waited. At 7:18 a.m., Elena's article went live. This time, there were names. She published the delivery schedules, the camera outage records, the medical compound documentation, and testimony from 3 former inmates who had experienced identical symptoms. She didn't accuse the prison directly. She accused the system that allowed deniability to become policy. Within minutes, the story detonated across Western media. Human rights organizations demanded access. Foreign ministries requested explanations. Legal teams filed emergency motions to move detainees out of Matrosskaya Tishina pending independent evaluation. The silence that had protected the prison for decades cracked open. Inside the facility, panic moved faster than orders. The truck in the loading bay was turned away without explanation. The storage room behind the laundry wing was sealed off. Guards were instructed to destroy unregistered medical supplies immediately. But destruction takes time. And time was gone. Antonov collapsed in his cell just before transport, not from poison, but from dehydration and exhaustion. When medics arrived, they found his untouched meal. That single act of refusal changed everything. Blood tests showed trace inconsistencies that hadn't appeared before, evidence of attempted administration without ingestion. For the first time there was proof. By nightfall, Matrosskaya Tishina was under international scrutiny. Officials called the allegations deeply concerning. Internal reviews were announced. A deputy warden resigned for health reasons. The kitchen supervisor was reassigned. No one used the word poison. Victor Levin was never found. Neither was the junior medic. The official conclusion, released months later, stated that procedural irregularities may have contributed to detainee discomfort. No intent was established. No criminal charges followed. The compound K-17 was quietly reclassified, its distribution restricted under new guidelines. Antonov was eventually convicted. His testimony was deemed unreliable. Elena Markovich left the country shortly after. She continued reporting, but never again returned to Matrosskaya Tishina. In her final piece on the prison, she wrote a single line that stayed with readers long after the headlines faded. Control doesn't always look like force. Sometimes it looks like food. Years later, former inmates would still talk about court days in whispers. About trays that smelled slightly different. About how confusion arrived right on schedule. No documents ever surfaced to confirm it. No cameras ever caught it. But the rumor survived. Because in a place built on silence, consistency is never an accident. And if you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's still hiding in the dark.